Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, sir. Wanted to ask you about your enforcement priorities. One of my jobs here in Congress is to serve on the Department of Homeland Security. And within that job, one of my most important critical jobs is to make sure our citizens are safe, to protect our nation against terrorist threats. In May of 2017, a joint FBI-DHS bulletin warned of a growing threat of violence posed by white supremacists, neo-Nazis, right-wing extremists, and other white nationalist groups. An extensive study of terrorist plots between 2008 and 16 found that plots and attacks by white nationalist groups in the U.S. outnumbered the threats by Islamic extremists 2 to 1. White supremacist groups have been aggressively recruiting in college campuses, and violent incidents involving these groups have more than tripled since 2017. More than 100 people have been killed or injured since 2014, and more than 60 in 2017 alone by these alt-right groups. Sir, just very basic question. Do you believe that white nationalism, white supremacists, extremists, or right-wing groups in this country pose a threat?
Yes, I do.
Is it growing?
Based on that report issued by the FBI, I have no reason, as I sit here today, to disagree with it.
Do you believe that the administration is placing enough of an emphasis, enough resources allocated, dedicated to stopping these kinds of homegrown terrorist attacks?
I believe that we are dedicating resources to the appropriate threats. That is done obviously below my role. It's done mostly at the line and the management level at the FBI and our other agencies, including our partners at DHS, as you mentioned. I really, as I sit here today, I think we are adequately addressing the threats that we face, but we are always reallocating resources based on how those threats evolve.
Adequately addressing the threat, and you mentioned earlier in your opening statement 30 convictions, hate crime convictions. Yet in 2017, an increase of 17% hate crimes reported, which they're usually underreported in this country. More than 7,000 hate crimes in 2017, and you have 30 convictions. Do you think you're allocating adequate resources towards prosecuting hate crimes?
I do, and if you look at some of the high-profile cases we've done, like the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, or the Charlottesville situation that we previously discussed, or even the case where we sent a prosecutor to my home state of Iowa to help prosecute a state hate crime. I think we have addressed hate crime.
If you look at the numbers, 7,000 reported, almost 20% increase in 2017, 30 convictions. Adequate?
Congressman, we always work with our state partners and the local police to determine where is the best place and the most effective place to prosecute a crime. And so to suggest that somehow that those victims of those crimes don't receive the proper justice, I think would be.
I think I'm looking at it from relative. We're looking at foreign terrorism, and yet are we ignoring domestic terrorism?
No, we're not ignoring that.
So are we allocating the equal or more resources to domestic versus foreign? Yes or no? Or
Congressman, we allocate our resources based upon the threats and where the federal government should deploy those resources. And again, it's a very dynamic daily evaluation as to where the threats are. And I believe we are adequately resourcing all of the threats, including the ones you described.
Do you think domestic terrorism from white extremist groups is on the rise? And do you think we should allocate additional resources to combating these kinds of terrorist attacks in this country?
Congressman, I believe I already answered this question, but I just want to be clear. I agree with the FBI's assessment.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
Okay, well, I believe with the FBI statement that those crimes are on the rise. I also believe that we have adequately deployed our resources on a daily basis, dynamically, as required by those threats. And I have seen it based on my intelligence briefings that I participate on almost a daily basis. And I know that the FBI and the other federal law enforcement agencies are adequately resourcing these threats in addition to all the other threats we face. It is a target-rich environment when it comes to law enforcement and making sure.
Sir, I'm running out of time. I'm going to say we're going to continue to look at this in Homeland Security because I believe that we're missing the ball here. In 2017, DHS terminated grant funding to look at some of these issues of domestic terrorism. We have to keep addressing addressing this issue. Lives, the safety of our citizens is at stake. Mr. Chairman, I yield.